Hello. Mayor Michael Ray Helfrich took the oath of office as mayor of the city of York on January 2nd, 2018. And prior to his mayorship, he sat on York City Council since 2012, serving as both vice president and president. Born the son of Kenneth R. Helfrich of Girard Avenue in the city of York and Christine Hartmann from Frankfurt, Germany, Mayor Helfrich grew up in West York, but he spent a lot of time in the city during his youth. He graduated in the top 5 of his class in 1988 from West York Area High School, go Bulldogs. And after graduation, Mayor Helfrich attended York College, but spent most of his 20s traveling the country. In 2001, Mayor Helfrich returned to York City and started the nonprofit Cadorus Creek Improvement Partnership, leading York's volunteers in an effort that has since made great progress in restoring York's main natural resource. Starting in 2005, he served as the Lower Susquehanna River Keeper, a legal and political advocate to improve waterways and communities around central Pennsylvania and northern Maryland. A local historian, Mayor Helfrich is living in the oldest owner-occupied home in the city of York, the Cookus House, also known as the Tom Paine House, which was built in 1761. In his spare time, Mayor Helfrich enjoys spending time with his young daughter, Lily, fishing in the Cadorus Creek, eating at Central Market, and listening to and playing music around the York community. So Rotarians, please help me welcome our mayor, Michael Helfrich.
Thank you, Megan, for that wonderful introduction, and thank you once again to the Rotary Club of York for having me here at the lovely Country Club of York. I wanted to, of course, I'm going to go off script already. Sorry, Philip. But I just wanted to thank everybody for their huge support of the York City Little League. If you didn't get to be there this last week, the turnout was amazing. Seeing 300 kids having something very productive to do, seeing their parents come out there, it's amazing. So your support is doing a lot for the next generation of York City residents. So thank you all very much for that. And before I begin my speech, I will say that I did not realize how many of the people that I'm mentioning in this speech would be here today. So this wasn't a setup. I didn't know you guys were going to be here, okay? But I will try and stay on track and keep it so that I can hear more from you at the end. So have some questions for me at the end, please. 11 months ago, I was on this stage updating you on my thoughts related to economic development for the city of York. Today, I come to you with our shared vision for the city of York. I say shared vision because the improvement of the city of York is deeply rooted in all of our businesses and residents. It does not and should not come from my office alone. Our shared vision, where York City is a place where people of all ages and backgrounds live and work together. Our shared vision, where we develop our greatest assets, our people, our sense of community and place, and our spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship. In many ways, 2018 laid the foundation for my administration. Over the last 463 days, I've sat with and shared visions with hundreds of city residents, business owners, community leaders, elected officials, and our talented city staff in an effort to completely assess the functioning of our government. These haven't always been easy conversations, but through this exploration and growth, we've entered 2019 with a renewed, focused, shared vision for our future. We know who we are, we know where we came from, we know what we need to do, we know how to do it, and we know why. I'm going to get into the who, what, where in a little bit, but let me start with the why. The 5 biggest complaints I hear about the city are the high taxes, the crime, the performance of our students in our schools, the trash in our streets, and the condition of our housing stock. Without going into too much detail on each of these points, each one of these issues is directly connected to the others. If we reduce taxes without, which we all want to reduce taxes, but if we reduce taxes without finding alternative funding sources, we can no longer afford to maintain our level of services, including potential impacts to the number of police officers we have. If we want to increase the number of police, we have to increase taxes. As I will share, the issues at the school district can't be solved without addressing the community at large. As the guy that has probably picked up more trash in this city than almost anybody, I can tell you that the trash keeps coming back. And you can paint the facades of the houses, but if the families inside the houses aren't successful, those houses will continue to deteriorate. There is, however, something we can do that positively impacts every one of these issues. You may have heard this already, but it is worth repeating. In York City, 60% of the 4-year-olds tested before entering kindergarten do not meet the basic benchmarks of success. So let me paint a picture of that 60%. You have a kid who grows up in an environment of instability and poverty, with the people around them acting out, making decisions based on survival instincts. This 4-year-old comes to us, the system, and as a result of the traumas already suffered in just their first 4 years, they will have a much more difficult time being successful at the kindergarten level. At 6 years old, this child is taking home a piece of paper saying that they're not good enough. At 8 years old, this child is getting frustrated. At 10 years old, this kid is getting angry. And at 12 years old, this child feels disenfranchised and disengages from the path of education, finding an alternative society in the streets that welcomes them with open arms. Those arms being Glocks, 38s, 45s. Now let me relate that back to those 5 problems. That same kid that was already feeling disenfranchised by 6 years old is more likely to become a criminal. They're less likely to do well in school. They're less likely to care about their community. They're less likely to care about themselves, so they're less likely to care about the conditions of their city, their neighborhood, or their own home. For every child we're not addressing before they are 4 years old, we see an increase in taxes to somehow counter the negative impacts created as a result of the lack of support they received in those critical early development years. To the contrary, the solution to many of our problems lies in this same child and the 800 like him or her that are born each year in our city. A healthy and well-supported child is more likely to be the successful, law-abiding citizen that we need to improve our city and improve our world. So now you have the why. Here's what we're doing. The Community Ecosystem Initiative and our Group Violence Initiative. The goal of our Community Ecosystem Initiative is to develop and implement a network of connectors to address the needs of our city residents. These needs could include everything from prenatal care to food and shelter issues and career and life skills training. While these services are broadly available throughout our county, there are many families that don't receive the support and encouragement that they need. And to get this support to them, we have to be working with each family in their neighborhood. Whether it's poverty, racial injustice, mental illness, or transportation, we are bringing human resources in to take on these challenges directly in our neighborhoods. Our goal is to provide a system of 16 coordinators connecting our robust nonprofit network of services with our residents right where they need them. We were able to kick off this program with our first 4 coordinators through a generous 2-year funding agreement provided by WellSpan Health. We have also come to an agreement with the York City School District to utilize their buildings as community centers. This program is being led by lifelong city resident Diaz Woodard and begins next week with the training of our initial 4 community coordinators. While our goal is to have 16, the first 4 community coordinators are starting in our most impoverished and violent pockets of our city. Most of the programs of the Community Ecosystem Initiative have long-term outcomes and address our children and families. That still leaves us with the violence and crime committed today. To address these issues, we are continuing the work of the Group Violence Initiative. GVI was started under the previous administration to track crime in York City, partner with federal and local enforcement agencies to improve enforcement and increase penalties. Thank you, District Attorney Sunday, for your partnership. He told me not to call him out, that's why I had to call him out. But also, it's not just meant to increase enforcement, but it's also to provide resources for those individuals that wish to leave the life of crime. On the enforcement side, we have seen violent crime sentences go from months or a few years in the county and state prison systems to federal prison sentences of years or decades. On the crime reduction and rehabilitation side, we have provided skills training, mental health services, diapers for babies, and even surgeries for pets to the people that are involved in GVI. Let me provide an example from just this past January where I can confidently say that GVI prevented a shooting in York City. A young man in GVI reached out to his former basketball coach that he knew was a community partner with GVI. This young man told him that he was being targeted by the same people that had recently shot his two friends. He told the coach he had only two choices: get out of York or defend himself in the only way he knew how. The coach immediately called me. Within 24 hours, our GVI team was able to provide this young man with gift cards to Giant and to Walmart and a bus ticket out of York. If GVI had not been there for him, this scenario would have ended very differently, and you would have read about it in the newspaper. As soon as I came into office, we enhanced the group violence initiative. I call it enhanced GVI because we are using GVI tools that we have learned, but we're now using them to help build our community. Our enhanced practices have added an aspect called the Community Police Response to Victims of Violence, or CPRVV. Through this element of GVI, we have been reaching out to the families of victims of gun violence, something that hadn't been done before, and providing any types of services that we are able to provide. Everything from fixing bullet holes in people's houses and vehicles, to making mortgage payments when they can't go to work, and providing lodging assistance for visiting family members that are coming to see their injured or deceased loved ones. In some instances, we have assisted with the burial plots themselves. What we ask in return is that the families spread the message that a retaliatory shooting is not going to be beneficial to anyone. Every murder ends in the loss of two lives, the person that is buried and the person put in prison. Through our team's communication with families, we have had an increase in information shared. We've had lifelong criminals convince their own sons to turn themselves in. We've had grandmothers. A grandmother called me specifically to help us apprehend her grandson without incident. And I personally have had people tell me that if I wasn't there talking to the victims' families on the scene, they wouldn't have given us information about the crime that had just occurred. If you don't know, this is one of the biggest setbacks to us reducing crime in the city, is the communication of the people with our police department. So I'm very proud of this and proud of our partnership. Our goals with the Community Ecosystem Initiative and Group Violence Initiative are to provide the tools needed to help our residents lead successful lives and to break the cycles of poverty, violence, and living in survival mode. GVI, however, does also follow with the proverbial stick of increased penalties and separating from society those that are not willing to help us create a peaceful and prosperous York City. Now let's talk economic development. Just as we have done in community development, we have a multifaceted approach to economic development. At the highest level, we continue to work with partners like the York County Economic Alliance to support our city businesses and attract new job providers. One of our additions to the economic development strategy is the introduction of York's ecosystem builder, Skylar Yost. I still have to specify, Bob Yost's grandson. He has been contracted to assess and increase each resource required for a healthy innovation and startup environment. Parallel to these efforts, we continue to focus on creating more equitable opportunities for our entire community through innovative solutions such as the procurement zones and the neighborhood loan program. So more specifically, under the York County Economic Alliance, Downtown Inc., and our new leader, Elaine Bonneau, is expanding its influence to help support smaller businesses throughout our gateway corridors, outside of the boundaries of the Business Improvement District. The Economic Alliance is working with us to promote redevelopment with our federal opportunity zones, which cover 1/3 of the city of York. Skylar Yost is working to foster an environment that attracts, promotes, and develops fourth industrial revolution technology and manufacturing companies. We believe these tactics will help us fulfill our plan of building wealth far into the 21st century. Without going off script for a second, I have to say, this is the real goal here. We sit on the shoulders of people that built wealth for the city of York in the 1800s, early 1900s, and we need to do a better job to inspire these people with ideas to take them globally the way that we did for people like A.B. Farquhar and Whiteleys and Lauxes and all these folks that have continued to give back to our city for over a century now. To help provide opportunities to our historically underutilized population, we are working with Eric Kirkland, York College of Pennsylvania, the Economic Alliance, Better York, that's it, everybody's here, to pilot the Procurement Zone Project. This project is a voluntary supply-side business development program in which businesses can volunteer to set aside a percentage of their procurement to support the growth of businesses that are owned by or being created by low-income individuals. In conjunction with the Procurement Zone program, a modest neighborhood loan program will help small startup businesses access low-interest rate capital that may not otherwise have been available due to their credit history. The recipients of these microloans will be determined by a neighborhood committee with assistance from professional financial advisors. For example, a plumber may have the tools but needs to purchase a van. If the neighborhood believes the person to be creditworthy, they can provide the loan. Makes you want to be a good neighbor, doesn't it? Of course, we know not everyone can create a startup or be an entrepreneur, so we continue to support multiple strategies of getting skills training and higher education into our neighborhoods. We are partnering with Darrell and HAC to bring classes directly into the neighborhoods to overcome time and transportation challenges of our residents. So even though HAC is in the city of York, there are still barriers for folks to get up there, and we're going to try to utilize our other partnerships to bring classes directly into the neighborhoods. We're working with Salem Square Community Association and Johnson Controls to promote a new trade school adjacent to one of the most impoverished and violent neighborhoods in the city of York. There's one more historic shortcoming in York's business development services that we have taken steps to correct. The Latino population of the city of York by census numbers is well over 30%. The number of Latino students entering the York City School District is over 50%. There's no denying that York City will be a predominantly Latino city in the near future. We see this as a great opportunity to build on the industrious spirit of our Latino neighbors. I am proud to say that with the hiring of my executive administrator, Ricardo Quintero, when you call our office, whether you speak English or you speak Spanish, you will be able to receive service in the language that you are most comfortable with. This is a first for the city of York. And there is a page missing. All right, now I'm really going to go off script. How did that happen? The other thing we are doing is we are working with CASA, York City's newest Latino support organization, and we have brought in AmeriCorps service workers, and they're working with our economic development department to help build, to help us communicate with our Latino businesses and those that want to bring businesses in. One of the things that I heard very much from my friends that have businesses, my Latino friends, is that when you try to start a business in York City, and in some ways this has been a problem in the past for everyone I've heard, but particularly for the Latino community, it is a compliance by failure situation. You become compliant because you keep getting fined. And then they find something else that you did wrong, and it's because the communication wasn't on the front end. And it's not a matter of whose fault it is, it's a matter of fixing this problem. How can we communicate better so that expectations are known ahead of time? Particularly right now with the influx of folks from Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico, the government actually pays people to open businesses and then gets out of the way. So the idea that we're requiring a certain amount of width for every aisle that people have to walk down, and all these different things that we have, it's a complete surprise to folks. So so we are trying to work, or we are working now, and increasing our communication with those folks, and it's we're already seeing a change in the relationship that we have with the Latino business community. So that leads us into overall our efforts to change, improve community service or customer service in the government. We are working right now, and actually Philip and some of our other folks are in sessions right now where we are developing the proverbial one-stop shop that everybody talks about. Someone that when you come in, you talk to one person, and they're actually getting you through the things that you need to go through. And that person will be trained to walk people through the process or get out of the way. Because sometimes that's what government's supposed to do too. So I'm very excited about that. My goal as mayor is to forge a team to assist the entrepreneurs, the dreamers, and the doers that continue to believe in the city of York. Sometimes that means holding their hands, and sometimes that means getting out of the way so that they can ignite change in their community. So whether it's Shiloh Baptist Church, going door to door, making their neighborhood safer, or the new Championship Community Center providing spaces for activities to keep the kids out of trouble, or folks that are trying to inspire the curiosity of the next generation at the Keystone Kids Space, or people providing for their families with the new corner store, or people that have the vision and wherewithal to build out the Northwest Triangle into a place that will help define York for the next 100 years. We are working to fulfill our role in creating the shared vision for the city of York. Thanks. Good, yes, absolutely. I would love to answer questions and instead of trying to guess what you want me to talk about.
Are you establishing quantitative measures of success for each of your initiatives? Gathering data, will you be measuring your progress so that at a future time you can come report quantitatively about the progress you've made?
Yes on some, and we haven't on others. So, for instance, our Group Violence Intervention Initiative, we have very specific measurements that we are taking over time. What data we have about our customer service to use as baseline, I'm not sure. I know that we have brought in a firm to assess our customer service, and they gave us a report, but I wouldn't say there was quantitative data in there. You know, how many, did you survey 100 people after they were at the window, and what did they say? I can certainly take that back, and that is a good idea, of course. The only way, and so the Community Ecosystem Initiative, we are working also with the Communities of Hope, which is working through Hannah School and the Casey Family Fund, and they have started to do some quantitative analysis or maintaining some idea of people that say they were getting services and how they are improving those services or how they are more utilizing those services more. So that it would be something that we could do more as we roll out the Community Ecosystem Initiative. Yes, sir.
First of all, thank you for coming here and explaining a lot of these things. I didn't know much of any of this, so thank you. With respect to skills training that you are implementing outside of the normal skills training programs that, as an employer, we think we know, are you generating a database of students or skills or people in the program that, in fact, are learning something that could be offered to employers to say, I have so many people that are learning plumbing, people that are learning
On that one, I would have to defer to Kevin Schreiber, who is leading up, I believe, are you leading up the workforce development committees?
Yeah,
And-
short
and-
summary, we
What's
have a
the question?
countywide
Yep,
workforce, we have a countywide workforce development plan that we just put into place after working with superintendents, higher education, and a whole bunch of major industry employers. And we've begun implementation. Happy to provide information and share that at a later date. But the city is a partner to that.
Yeah, sorry, I was instructed to repeat the questions and I did not do that. So the question was, are we keeping a database and information on the trade school work that is going on? And again, I had to defer that to Kevin because our support was to offer some financial support to the one trade school, and then we haven't really kicked off anything yet, but we've been having great discussions with the Harrisburg Area Community College.
Mike?
Yes.
Mayor, there's an exciting vision and plans for the Cadorus Creek, and you've been such a great champion and everything else. Can you talk about your hopes and dreams and what's actually going to happen?
Yeah, well, my hopes, the visions are beautiful. My hopes are that somebody finds the money. So we've got, and I don't think I'm out of line if I say 15, am I?
No, you're good.
We've got $15 million committed by Governor Wolf and through the RACP assistance grants, and we have that. We've been able to match that with another $15 million worth of construction money that is going in from the federal government. So we've got that in hand. The renderings, the beautiful visions that you've seen are of a $60 to $75 million project. So I'm excited that we're started, but I'm very much show me the money. We've got to find that money and find that support. So if the people of York want it, they're going to have to play a role too, because we were blessed by the ability to match the Army Corps of Engineers money with the state money. After that, if there's more money from the state, it's likely that we need more match money, and that would be local money, or I'm not sure where it's all coming from, but I'm definitely excited about it, and well, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, Elaine.
Mayor, I had a question about the Community Ecosystems Initiative. You
Yeah.
mentioned that there would be 16 community coordinators that will connect residents with the services. Will it be Communities of Hope that provides the training for those initial 4 in that pilot? And
No.
is there an emphasis area by neighborhood?
Okay, so the question was, with our Community Ecosystem Initiative, will the Communities of Hope program that is through the York City School District, will they be training our
Or who will
coordinators?
provide that
We're
training?
providing training. No, we have our own training that we are doing. While there are some parallels, we see some differences yet. So we're hoping to do our training. Our goal is for the first 4 is to start them all over in the Salem Square community. Get all 4 kind of working the same direction. Their goals are to find locations where there can be programs provided, find people that are willing to provide the programs, and get those all organized. Then go out door to door and start talking to people. Unfortunately, a lot of the people that need the most services in the city of York are probably not getting those services. They're either, well, there's all sorts of reasons why people don't come and get the help that they need that is available. So we are going to be going door to door and really getting to know people. The reason I went with 16 coordinators is that that splits the city up into sections of about 3,000 people. When you think of the problems of 44,000 people in the city of York and you try to manage that, it's unmanageable. You can't even visualize figuring that out. But 3,000 people, that's 800 doors. You can knock on 800 doors. It takes you 3 weeks. I've done it before. But to actually have a 5 to 10 minute conversation with everybody takes about 3 weeks for one person, or a week and a half for 2 people, or 1 week for 3 people, depending on how many volunteers and how many people you can get together. So we're going to work all on the same, get everybody on the same page through our training, and then split the group up, send 2 of them over to work with the communities of Hope and Hannah School, and build out from there. Yes?
Has there been any consideration in taking a look at other towns in America that have adopted a strategy of cutting taxes to attract business back into the city, thereby increasing the tax base?
Well, there's certainly that hope, and that was my strategy until I got into office and saw that we had unpaid balances still. That's all I can really say. I've got to figure out how to pay these balances before I can cut the taxes. I mean, I've got stuff going back a few years.
It's not a chicken and egg. It's called a bond issue.
Yeah, we can't do that right now. Unfortunately, we can't do that right now.
Well, there are other towns that have followed that. There's a prescribed method of achieving those goals. If we really want to increase our tax base, that's how you do it.
Well, we've put a third of the city in federal opportunity zones, which is a huge incentive to bringing people downtown. So I don't really, at this point, want to borrow more money on the backs of the future until we try the stuff that we have. So that's where I'm at with it right now. And again, while I am committed personally to trying to cut taxes, if you haven't paid your bills from last year, it's hard to cut your revenue this year. So we've got over $200 million in build-out development that's set up for the next 2 years. We're very excited about that. We have other people that are investing in the city of York. So I'm cautious to incur more debt when we have this historic debt that we haven't paid off yet. Come on, somebody got a good one? Last chance. Taking it that easy on me? All right, thank you, everybody.